Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open on board a flying saucer being piloted by a useless robot called Sam. Suddenly space pirates show up to do some space pirate things, so he fires up the classical music and wakes Commander Michael Colby. The sole human inhabitant takes some time to recover, but this spaceship is far superior to the pirates, who shouldn't have even bothered. They can't even penetrate the shield before Mike blows up all of these reused ships in what can only be described as a battle beyond the stars. This whole opening scene has nothing to do with the rest of the story and is just to show that Captain Colby has skills. Skills that he'll never get to use, as their new mission is land-based, where for some reason Mike turns into a teenage girl in a horror movie. Sam received a distress call from a not-so-nearby research station, so the lawman travels by hyperspace to the desert planet of Zarbia. Things in the facility look fine from the angle we're shown, and upon arrival Mike's greeted by Dr. Gordon and his beautiful assistant Barbara. Their ultimate goal here is to splice alien DNA with food crops for human consumption, which has bad news written all over it. These geniuses found a native bacteria growing wild on this planet and thought that they could use it to duplicate potatoes. Just then Mike bumps into the technician Tracy, who gives him the googly eyes, but Gordon tells her to keep it in her pants.
Sure.
They don't get many visitors here, most likely because of the massive dose of radiation you must receive from this giant microwave when entering. Or possibly because all of their test bunnies were massacred by one of the other experiments, which is why Mike was called in. The unqualified man learns from the cancer-ridden Dr. Cal that this snot in a jar is actually a cocoon housing a mutant called Subject 20. Mike proposes that they just pour some hydrochloric acid on it and job done, but Cal says that the creature just alters its genetic makeup to survive. Meaning that it took properties from the rabbits when killing them, and when it emerges from the snot it'll be something completely new. It's also intelligent enough to put itself inside this incubator, so the silly doctors want to wait and see what it morphs into. Since Jimmy's the most expendable crew member, he's left alone to clean up this mess and sticks his whole head inside the incubator for a closer look. He notices erratic breathing coming from the creature, so alerts the smart people, but Gordon's like, nah, that black blob falls out of it all the time. Without even glancing at the security cameras, he just sends Tracy to go check on her boyfriend while everyone else gathers for lunch. This means that they miss seeing Subject 20 launch itself onto Jimmy's face and suck the brains out of his skull, but they're too busy listening to Brian's first line of dialogue about how his strawberry shortcake doesn't have enough cream. Maybe they could just splice it with some of the alien bacteria, which Barbara reveals has already killed another crew member named Annie. Mike can't tell a genome from a jelly bean and thinks that all these people are crazy, but maybe that's just what they need. Suddenly a distress call comes in from Tracy, who's discovered her boyfriend turned into a convertible, but there's no sign of the creature. Jimmy's somehow still breathing despite missing his brain, so Cal takes the body away to be examined while the others seal off the lab. They scour every inch of the room for Subject 20, but eventually give up the hunt when it's nowhere to be found. Maybe they should have looked deeper inside Jimmy's skull, since the intelligent bacteria has used the corpse as its own little Trojan horse. Tracy is comforted by Barbara over the tragedy, and at night while she's getting undressed the mutant enters her cabin to censor the goods. However, that doesn't stop her from mourning the loss of Jimmy while unnecessarily hanging a boob out like that. There must be something in the air because Barbara comes out looking like this, so obviously Mike is helpless to resist betting her. In a scene that goes for 3 minutes straight, Brian plays his space flute while Earl watches his own girlfriend get it on with another man on the cameras. Skin flute in hand, he suddenly hears a ping on the radar as Specimen 20 has saved us from this awkward scene. From henceforth the creature shall be called the Dingwhopper, which I think Earl only calls it because of the noise it made on the radar. He names it, then gets killed by it, but this is all you get to see because his death has been spliced with his girlfriend getting railed. Meanwhile, Cal's shown taking his cancer medicine while Jimmy's remains are rapidly turning into a jelly-like substance. The next morning we follow Tracy to the steam bath and spend an uncomfortable amount of time just waiting for something to happen. She lies there wearing only a smile while attracting a crowd like the Dingwhopper above her and Mike, who I guess was just in the area. He wastes no time in moving on from Barbara to Tracy, who was just crying over a photo of her boyfriend like 2 minutes ago. The monster has grown so fat that it falls out of the vent on top of them, but luckily Mike already had a loaded weapon in his hand. They escape the room, but the conflict isn't over as Barbara's more pissed at Mike trying to bone Tracy than she is sad about old what's-his-face dying. Tracy says that it's growing bigger by the minute, but I think she's talking about the Dingwhopper that just escaped onto the surface of the planet. Since they didn't just hire him to cripple all these women, Mike takes control of the situation by ordering everyone to split up. To avoid addressing the Barbara-shaped elephant in the room, he'd rather put on a spacesuit and risk his life getting as far away as possible. He takes Gordon, Brian and Sam to hunt the creature down while the doctors witness the spliced remains of Jimmy duplicating. Nothing comes of that for a bit, while on the desert surface of Zarbia the boys come across Earl's decomposing corpse near a massive cocoon. They begin to shoot at it, but Gordon damages Sam because he wants to protect the creature until discovering the cocoon is actually empty. He races back to the research station, getting ahead of the others until coming face to face with the fully grown dingwhopper. It leaps over Gordon like one of the rabbits it consumed and breaks into the facility through a vent, but momentarily returns to snatch up Gordon and drag him down because the doctor doesn't get off that easy. Somehow the mutant reaches the control room, as I guess we just skipped on security, and destroys all of the computers in an attempt to get Tracy. Fortunately, this thing has horrible vision for something that rapidly evolves, so Tracy is able to get away with her high-heeled runners. Soon Gordon staggers in having been spliced with the bacteria, so Cal realizes that the mutant is just playing their own game. It's keeping humans alive so they can duplicate into an infinite food supply, just like doctors were trying to do here, but in the reverse. Only now does everyone reveal that Gordon spliced his own cells with the bacteria and implanted it into the dead girl Annie. 2 weeks later, Subject 20 killed her on its way out, but that's the price we must pay to birth a mutant alien baby named Dingwhopper. While brainstorming, Barb comes up with a good idea to try communicate with the creature, but Mike's like, "What are you, stupid woman, go away." That's not even an exaggeration, so now Barbara must conspire with Tracy to go behind their back, and the only way they know how is naked. Agreeing to risk it and covering up their biscuits, they pass through the takeaway container-lined hallways to the control room. They approach Dingy sitting in his incubator and show that they've come unarmed, but this thing is still legally blind. Barbara uses the computer to ask if they can coexist, and wouldn't you know it, this thing can't speak, but it's learned English complete with abbreviations. That's almost as impressive as how Barb gets turned into a lollipop moments later, and Tracy must report her monumental failure back to the others. Mike and Brian return to the control room where the creature has got all snuggly inside its new cocoon with the body. Cal runs a test by injecting his cancer cells into a sample of Gordon, which seems to kill the otherwise indestructible bacteria. He then destroys the remainder of the Dingwhopper's food supply before warning a primed Mike not to disturb the sleeping creature. That doesn't help Brian, who gets the random death award when the cocoon releases a liquid onto the control board he's repairing, electrocuting him. Cal attempts to inject the creature with his cells but gets knocked away by an arm, and that was apparently all it takes to mortally wound him. Mike carries him to the lab while Tracy's sent alone to get morphine instead of sending the robot that's done nothing this whole time. On her way back, the fully grown Subject 20 pops out from around a corner and chases her through the facility, but without her heels on, Tracy moves like the wind. She makes it back to Dr. Mike in one piece, but he's a little busy elbow deep trying to remove Cal's cancerous organ. Tracy suddenly remembers that she can just unlock the door herself and gives the morphine to Cal, but it's too late as he's already bled out. Just then the Subject formerly known as 20 breaks into the lab and attacks Mike in one of the worst edited final fights ever put to film. One thing's for sure, that amongst this blurry mess Sam decides to help by stabbing the monster, but is immediately destroyed, so I see why he was sidelined. Somehow Cal manages to stick his entire arm inside the Dingwhopper's mouth without getting it bitten off. He hand feeds it the cancer-ridden organ, which is I guess why they paid Mike the big bucks, but I'm now questioning this creature's level of intelligence. The two survivors watch as it suffers an agonizing death and giving us glimpses of completely unnecessary scenes like Barbara getting dinged up her whopper. And the movie ends.